I'd like to welcome you, Kaspars Putniņš from Latvia. We really appreciate having you here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And so you conduct the Latvian radio choir. Could you
That's true.
tell us a little bit more about your background as a choir conductor?
I've been with that ensemble for basically all my life. I just after finishing the school, the Latvian Academy of Music, I was invited to conduct the Latvian radio choir, and from the season 92-93 I've been there. It's a very long time. We are a full-time professional ensemble consisting of 25 permanent singers. But we try to be very universal, also in terms of repertoire, but also in terms of size. So that the radio choir can have the program, which is only ensemble, only a small bunch of people, starting from four. For example, singing Kaya Sarya Honyu Adieu, the beautiful, which is one of my very, very favorite pieces of the 20th century. Vocal ensemble, and very often we do music which is written for 8 voices or 12 voices, and if needed we can extend the ensemble up to 80 singers for bigger oratory work. That's not very often, but sometimes we do that as well. Yeah. But most of the time there's 25 of us, and as I said already, the choir is universal in terms of repertoire. We basically cover most of the repertoire. Not maybe that much polyphony, Renaissance polyphony as I would like to, because I think our sound, the voices, would actually fit very nicely to that repertoire. We don't do that often, but starting from Baroque up to very contemporary trends of vocal writing for choir, that is our regular daily bread, so to say. We collaborate a lot with composers, mostly in Latvia, but also abroad. We commission a lot of new music, and we consider ourselves a bit of a greenhouse for strange species.
Okay.
we try to experiment with the choir as an instrument. We try to distinguish what is possible with ensemble of voices.
Interesting. So this week you're conducting the Helsinki Chamber Choir in the Nordic Music Days. And I know we've only had one rehearsal so far, but how was the rehearsal yesterday, and have you enjoyed working with this choir?
Of course I enjoyed working with you. I've heard a lot about you, and I've been looking forward to this very much. I'm very honored to be here, of course. I'm very happy that the working environment is very good. I mean, the people are really 100% here, and they've really done a lot of preparation work in advance, and the concentration is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to how far we can go in our conversation.
Sure. What do you think about the repertoire? Is it somehow Nordic?
Nordic? What is that?
Well, all the
I wonder.
composers are Nordic.
Yes, that's true, but I think nowadays it's very difficult really to distinguish what are the national or even regional trends, because people travel so much and basically, I hate generalizations, but sometimes one has to generalize. I think one of the major trends, and I mean that's very obvious, is that every composer has to invent its own world, in fact. And these common streams, what used to exist up to, sometimes second half of the 20th century, of course people have huge influence on each other, and probably closer colleagues have bigger influence than those who live far away. But on the other hand, I think this is really the type of personalities, and For example, if one would ask me what is the Latvian music today, I don't know. I mean, every individual is so special and so different in comparison to the other. Of course, as I say, they are influencing each other because there is certain collaboration, certain information and energy exchanged between close colleagues. But on the other hand, everyone is growing its own direction, so obtaining its own, shape, its own. And it's basically regarding both, regarding the subject and also regarding the form, the sound.
Do you think, are there differences in maybe choir cultures in Central Europe and Northern Europe, or what do you think? Sound-wise or working-wise?
Yeah, well, again, it's very difficult to tell and to generalize and to draw borders. We are considered, for example, it was already a while ago in Huddersfield Festival. We had this public conversation before the concert, and Richard Steinitz, who was then the boss of the festival, he was asking me questions, and he asked me, where is this Baltic choir sound coming from? I didn't know that such thing exists. For the outside world, we and Estonians, we probably look somewhat similar, but I think into comparison to Estonian Philharmonic Chamber Choir, my choir is very different. We always thought so. But yeah, maybe looking from a side, maybe there is something that and nevertheless, of course, that's a big subject, but choir culture as such still has some specific distinctive features, and I'm not talking only of the Latvian choir or Estonian choir or your choir, but generally speaking. I don't know, where does it come from? Is it the language that has the influence to the voice? We've been talking about this quite a lot with my professional colleagues all around the world, basically, and it's very interesting, but there's no one particular answer to this. I think it's a combination of things. It's probably the traditions of the repertoire, for instance, the Flemish. They are very proud, of course, of their Renaissance repertoire, and they do it a lot, and probably shape their sound accordingly. Even the groups who are dealing with other repertoire, like my friends Flemish Radio Choir, for example, they do all kinds of music, but they do also a lot of their Flemish polyphony, and probably that is that thing that has the major influence of the sound. The same would apply to Netherlands kamarikuoro, for example, who've got this wonderful tradition of singing French music, for example, and so it goes. There are so many aspects that have that influence on who we are, of course.
What do you think makes a good chamber choir or a good chamber choir singer?
Combination of things. First of all, of course, it's the individual voice. It's the ability of the individual voice, which has to be universal, flexible, and on the other hand, it's a very good chamber music making feel, skill, ability to communicate very well in the chamber music environment, meaning that one is not only able to wonderfully sing one's own line, but also able to wonderfully communicate while making music with other colleagues. Not only, reacting to what the conductor says or shows, but also reacting to what is the sound, what are the impulses from the other colleagues around him. reacting, showing a lot of initiative when it's needed, and replying to initiative from the other colleagues. In other words, that is something is the chamber music making as such. And of course, all the singers nowadays have to be very flexible with languages, because we are dealing with huge number of all different types of languages, and talking about Latvian alone, you have so many ways to pronounce it, and one has to have certain knowledge, otherwise the work is very slow and boring, and nowadays we cannot afford long rehearsal periods. We have to work very fast, otherwise it's very expensive to rehearse. And then, yes, since basically all the professional chamber choirs nowadays deal with huge variety of repertoire, one has to have a lot of knowledge in different styles as well. So there's a bunch of features that one has to acquire during these studies.
One quick question
and instincts as well, not only knowledge.
Sure. One last quick question.
Yeah.
How do you personally, as the conductor, help the choir and the singers get there? In an ideal world, I see the conductor's role as of someone who is basically initiating the conversation, someone who is having that initial energy, and then let also the other musicians realize their musical ambitions and their initiative. Very often it happens nowadays, because all the rehearsal periods are so short, we have to be extremely professional in a negative sense of the word, and just extremely practical in order just to get the thing right until the concert production. And especially with music which is not familiar, which you do for the first time and also the choir does for the first time, it's very difficult to achieve this level. But that would be ideal, so that there is this initial sparkle that comes from the conductor, and then it develops like a conversation in the group. Okay, well, thank you very much, and we're very much looking forward to our concert on Saturday.
You too, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.